NDE, or near-death experiences. That's today's subject. I'm going to cover the deep peace that I felt during that time, the in and out of consciousness, and how I was just minutes away from actually dying. So, hi there, my name is Ellen. I am welcoming you to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. So, the number one would be um, I've had four near death experiences, which is kind of interesting. And I am actually very interested myself in finding out I can't be the only one. There has to be other people who have gone through more than one NDE. Um, I mean, children fall from trees. We are just more adventurous, I guess, when we are children, and things happen rather quickly at times. And I'm just curious as to how many you yourself have experienced. And I don't know if, me having had four NDEs, if that's unusual, or perhaps people are not talking about it. I would really encourage everyone to just really talk about it openly. I think we find out so much more about ourselves too, and how it affects all of us, and how we can learn from it. So the first one was when I was 10, and I've spoken about two prior incidences that I had. The first one was at age 10 at the bottom of a lake. There's a previous video on that. And then when I was 50, and I was resuscitated when I was at the hospital. I had already been, I was gone anyway. And this one is going to be, I'm going to talk to you about when I was 30. So it's interesting, 10, 30, 50. So today I'm going to talk about the one when I was 30 years old. And I had what I did not know. I had a kidney infection. I just had back pain, and that was about it. But I thought maybe, it's just slept bad or what have you, it's just back pain. And so I would take some Tylenol, what have you, and just kind of get through the day. At that time, we were stationed in Europe, and I had two little girls who were going to school at that time, elementary. And so I felt that I had gotten more and more tired every day. And at that time, my husband, he had a military exercise, so he was out of town for the next, I think it was like 10 days or so. So it was basically the children and I were home alone, and I was stuck with back pain, but I just brushed it off. And as the days went by, it I just became much more tired, and I didn't know what all that was, but I didn't really worry about it too much. And so I noticed that my naps had become much longer. And there was one time when I went to bed around noon, and I just woke up because somebody was hammering against the door, and I just wanted to take a 30-minute nap, and I was sleeping for 3 hours. So I opened the door, and I told my daughter, then, look, tomorrow go ahead and take the key just in case I'm napping. So I didn't think anything of it, and never even thought about going to the doctor. I don't know why. I have no idea. But anyway, to continue, um, I I got more and more tired. And then a few days into it, there was a time when my daughter came home, and she had gotten the key, the day previously, previously, yeah, she got the key prior to that day. And sorry, and anyway, so she had let herself in, and she was not able to wake me up. So she told me later, and she was getting frantic, obviously, little girl, 8 years old. And she ran upstairs and got a neighbor, and that neighbor, she came downstairs and apparently had trying to wake me up and had even slapped me. And then I finally woke up by something cold in my face. And so she had taken a jug of cold water and just splashed me with it to wake me up. And I was up, sort of, but I was still kind of like in a trance. I was just in and out, kind of. And so she told me to get up, and she helped me, and she called the post. We were stationed on a military site off post, And so she called the commander and asked and told him the situation and that she needed help ASAP. And so they sent a military van to transport me to the nearest hospital, which was Gießen, a military hospital. And so they took me there. But I remember I was kind of out. They had to help me. There was two soldiers apparently who were helping me into the van. And it was a very bumpy ride getting to Gießen. It must have been about a 2-hour drive. And I was in and out. When I was out, I just felt so at peace. I cannot even describe it. I felt held, I felt comforted, I was never fearful. I felt safe, completely safe. And that's a wonderful feeling. And every time when I was woken up, it was just shouting and anxiety in the van, and people were just like frantic, and I couldn't understand what was going on because I was so much at peace. By the time we got to Gießen, apparently they got me into this emergency room, and I remember waking up briefly and I saw like tiles on the walls, like light green or what have you, and lots of shouting. And I was just like, let me just sleep, let me just be at peace. I really loved that feeling because it felt warm and safe, and I felt held, and it was just so comforting. And every time I was up again, it was rough and it was loud and a little obnoxious. And anyway, they apparently stabilized me at that time and then rushed me with an ambulance to the next base, which was Frankfurt, where they had specialists. And so they sent me there. And apparently, from what I was told, I was just minutes away from my kidneys failing, collapsing completely. And so it was an interesting experience for sure. I know that during the time when I was in and out, they asked if I was pregnant at that time, and I told them no, I'm not. And so they gave me some very potent medicine. And I remember there were nurses who came in. One was sitting with me for a while. They came and they walked me around, and I remember I couldn't even really stand, and I was just so weak, so tired. I just wanted to sleep. And it was interesting because when I think back, I wasn't even asking for my daughters. I wasn't asking for anyone. I just wanted to be left alone and be in that peaceful state again. And no, I did not see any kind of, you know, um, lights and sunshine and rainbows and happy valleys. I did not see any of it. I just remember feeling being held, and I felt warm, cozy, um, safe. I said that earlier. Those are the feelings that I really felt, and I felt whatever happens, I will be okay. And it was interesting because apparently I was out for a long time, they told me. And I awoke for good, I guess, some 24 hours later or so. And I remember somebody held a mirror in front of me, and I had these dark, it's almost like green blue eyes, just like big dots. They were just, I was so dark around my eyes. And they told me that was, I asked them if that was medication, and they told me no, it's the kidneys. They almost, you were almost gone, so it's going to take a while. And it did take weeks and weeks for that to go away. I had to use lots of makeup just to cover somewhat, but I wore glasses during that, sunglasses during that time, even though it was winter. But yeah, vanity, right? But anyway, interesting how at the age of 10, I had come across an NDE. Then again at the age of 30, then 50, and then the last one was 62. And I will talk about the last one that I had when I was living in California. Again, very interesting. And that was, again, when I look at all the experiences I've had, all the NDEs, they were all very, very different from one another. Very different. I mean, from one where I was drowning, another one where I was completely gone and I was precipitated, with, with these handles on my chest. Um, and then when I was at 62. I don't want to give too much away, but that was also very, very close and very different. So I had all these different experiences, twice, due to health concerns. One that, like I said, surgery. The second one was where, like today, when I'm talking about the almost the kidney failure. And it's interesting how they come in these time spans where they are almost 20 years apart. If you think about it, the age of 10, then again 30, then 50, but then the next one was 62. So there was a shorter window. And I don't know if I don't know what that is. I have no idea, but I would love to hear from others and tell me if you have had similar experiences, because I think the more we talk about it, the better off we all are, because we're learning from one another. And this opens up something, because I know that when I had the incident, in my 30s with the almost kidney failure, just was it 7, 8 years later, when I was then in Oregon, and our neighbor and his two friends went down on a plane and they died. And I saw him later again in a previous video. If you want to go ahead and take a look at it, I knew then that there is a life after, so to speak. Maybe we cannot call it life, but there is something afterwards, that one does not have to be afraid of. You may not be able to connect with people, but I know what I saw. I know what I saw. And therefore, since then, I have no more fear at all. I mean, even when I was 10 years old, right? I knew that when I was saved and I walked back to stable surface, that there was a reason for this to be happening and that there was a greater plan. I just knew it at that young age that God had a plan for me, that there was a universal plan that I needed to fulfill something. And I'm thinking we all come here with a purpose. We might forget due to the fact that we are being schooled, in school, obviously, and then there's work and there's life and what have you, and we forget. But I really do believe that there is a reason why we are here. And there's also a reason why we are being saved from different situations. I mean, there are people all the time who have been saved due to the fact that maybe they missed a train or a cab or what have you, and they miss the flight, and the flight goes down, and they should have been on it, but they are not. There are so many stories out there where I know for sure that there is an after. And what I felt when I was in this deep sleep was, the safety I felt, the being held, really being held with warmth and love. It was a beautiful feeling. It was almost like I can imagine a child feels that way when she or he is being held by their parent. This incredible soothing feel, and that's how I felt when I was, out of consciousness. I went in and out, and every time I was woken up, I didn't like that feeling. But when I drove home, that it was a good week or 10 days later. I don't recall exactly. It's been a few years uh, since I'm 69 now. But I remember going back, and I almost missed the time when I was in this deep sleep, because I felt so accepted and loved, and hopefully we can feel that way, when we are here on earth, right, in a living state. So create moments, right, where you find true happiness and you feel loved, and share the love that you have for others too. I think we all need to embrace one another more and be open, right, and speak to what really matters. So I appreciate you tuning in. Please like and share if you care, and support my channel that way. And of course, subscriptions are always free. So if you like what you've heard, please share. Thank you so much. I'll see you another time. Bye bye.